Hey, Brent, since we have you on, I think you cover, I'm pretty sure I see on your coverage list you cover Palantir, and if I'm not incorrect, you have a sell on it. Stock's up almost 9% this morning. Any idea what's going on? Or I'm curious as to your thoughts given that move.
Yeah, today, I think, David, you're seeing a broader rally in tech, and so everything is green. I don't know specifically to what's happening at Palantir. We like other names better. We think that Palantir has done a really nice job in terms of getting their momentum going in AI, but we like other stories better.
What do you like best heading into earnings, given the tougher setup, but also the second half ramp in AI revenue?
Microsoft's our top large cap name in software. Amazon's our top internet name. And then we like Salesforce.com for margin improvement. Their margins are at 30. We've said this, they're on a diet. They can derive incremental margin upside. And then the AI wave, which is really not even hitting yet. The hype is there. The revenue reality of AI is not happening until the back half of this year into early next year, at least in software. It's obviously happening in semis with NVIDIA. But we think the setup still looks good relative to fundamental strength. We hosted 20 plus software companies the first week of January, and every one of these companies said demand is stable. No one is saying it's back to the excitement that we saw during COVID, but I think we're back to a better spot in demand from all of our channel checks, and you're hearing it across internet and software in all the checks that we do.
So I'm curious why it's not showing up in revenues yet for these tech companies, because I was mentioning everyone was talking AI in Davos. Everybody has their use cases, and it's happening now, whether it's a medical device company or a furniture retailer. They're all talking about how they're using AI, and they're working with their enterprise software providers to do it. So why isn't it being monetized yet?
I think part of it is early adopters is number one. Two, the analogy of, you put a pool in your backyard, no one really cannonballs in right away. And I think you're seeing people dip their toe in. It's analogous to having young kids. They're slow into the water, right? And the same thing is happening with CIOs. They're very slow into the AI water because you're risking your potential corporate data. You're risking bad outcomes. You're risking your data. And so I think what you're seeing is companies are putting big governors on AI. The biggest constraint in our work is really around security and safety of the data. And so I think everyone is in experimental phase. No one is in a mass market rollout. And that will move from experimental or dip your toe into the cannonball phase into 24 into 25. And we're seeing it in all the data. You can even see it in Microsoft, right? Amy Hood guided to little AI revenue in the front half of the year, more AI revenue in the back half. Their back half is starting now in their fiscal year. So even CFOs and CEOs are guiding to this. But I think to most people, the AI movement is all hype right now. And you would expect the revenue based on all the conversations everyone's having around it. The reality is it's tiny. For most tech companies, it's low single-digit % of their revenue.
Then the question is, how much more value is it creating in the companies that either already exist or the new companies? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, AI, Andrew, is going to be something that impacts productivity. That's what really matters here, right? At the end of the day, what are we all doing with these markets, with these businesses? You want to create more with less. You want to create more prosperity for society. When you have something like electricity, it takes decades to work its way through everything, right? Electricity, I think 30 years in, you finally had factories designed to use electricity. But even in the first decade, it did a lot of other things.
Right.
AI right now, it's going after a lot of areas. We're seeing already how it could raise the margins, how it could address things. There's lots of service areas of the economy. I'll give you one example. Healthcare billing is a $280 billion revenue area, and we're already seeing how AI is probably going to be able to double the margins in that area, which basically means you pull $100 billion of spend out of the economy. That's new wealth it creates through productivity. There's probably going to be trillions of dollars of that the next 5 years.
You think in the next 5 years that happens?
I think you actually see by the mid to late 2020s, economic numbers showing up where productivity's gone up.
Do you think, though, I was thinking Con Ed, which is electricity in New York, it's not a great high flyer of a stock because at some point it does become commoditized. So is there a period right now which is like a renaissance and then it gets commoditized? The other thing that I worry about or think about is whether we're in 1996 or 1999 where there's just going to be too much of an almost overinvestment in this area and there's going to be a lot of collateral damage when it's over?
I mean, the way markets work with new possibilities is there always is overinvestment. There's a few big platforms that emerge that are going to be extraordinarily valuable. The same way in the late 90s you had things like Amazon born, you have Google born. Obviously, those would have been really good bets. You have a lot of other things that there's too much hype. But then basically you have these infrastructure for AI that makes a lot of money because 2 or 3 or 5 things emerge as winners there.
Right.
And then the whole economy benefits. If productivity goes up as much as it looks like it's going to do, that makes money for every one of us. And that's a good thing for the whole society.
Do you think there's more value in the software piece or the hardware piece? One of the things that I think has been fascinating to hear, people were talking about it actually in Davos, is Sam Altman, who was there from OpenAI, clearly has been looking around to try to raise money to actually start manufacturing chips. In the old world, chips were never considered a valuable thing to do. And by the way, maybe in 10 years from now, there'll be an overabundance of chips and nobody will care about chips anymore. But for the next 5 or 10 years, it seems like people won't be able to get enough of them.
The infrastructure of chips is critical to make this work. If you can make chips commoditized, that means the rest of us are going to be all very well off because you're going to be applying it to the whole economy. I mean, the most money is going to be made, frankly, for the S&P 500, for the big companies that are more productive overall. That's where the real money gets made if this works. But we need the chips to do that. I mean, Sam's thinking, how can I apply this technology? How do we scale it? There's a scarcity of chips, so it's really smart to do.
In the defense world, how do you think it fundamentally changes things? I mean, we were talking to your co-founder, Alex Karp, about sort of how AI is going to impact his business. He's leveraging ChatGPT and some of these other large language models as well. So the question is, do you have to create your own model? Is it really just about taking somebody else's model and applying it to what you're doing?
Well, it was really cool. I guess OpenAI opened up to defense now. But listen, in the defense world, software is becoming more important. AI makes software determinative in defense. We already have all these new companies needed in defense because the old big primes, the big legacy defense contractors, they're really good at hardware. They're pretty bad at software. Thanks to AI, you now desperately need all the new companies in defense because there's a bigger gap there.
What does that mean, determinate? Like determine?
It means like
or you mean determining what lines you kind of follow?
It means determining like what technologies are dominant in warfare, right? So if you have AI being as good as it is now, suddenly it really, really matters to have the best software. If you're going to be doing, like, you want to get a certain amount of money for a certain amount of outcome, right? So if you're going to be building 1,000 small autonomous drones for some kind of battle scenario, if you have AI, you desperately are going to need the best software companies involved in that. Otherwise, you're going to lose that battle. You're going to not be deploying it correctly.
Hey, Joe, I know that I think you think Bitcoin is real, right? My question now is it's become mainstream to the point of ETFs. I think it's to be harder to go higher quickly now. Unlike it was supposed to be that everyone can get in now, and that all the ETF companies are going to need to buy Bitcoin to put it in the ETFs. To me, it's like if you bought it at $800 or $8,000. You were smart. You went through a lot of trouble to buy it. Now everyone can buy it. I think it's going to be here for a while.
There's not going to be a whole new financial story driving it from the side of buyers necessarily, although there's one type of buyer that could be very important here. AI agents are going to start doing a lot of things in our economy. And for AI agents to coordinate with incentive systems, you're probably going to use crypto. And so if this AI story works out in certain consumer areas, especially,
and then tokenizes everything.
To AI, yeah. Do you